Jesse is back for episode 120 of The Nero Show. In today's episode,
Chris has been riding the TREK Madone, as we like to call it. We chat through what he thinks of TREK's flagship road race bike.
Pig Talk is calling out GCN and Francis Cade is upgrading his Specialised LA. We have a quick YouTube run through.
I'm sure we all saw Milan San Remo, but what makes Mathieu van der Poel head and shoulders above the rest of the competition physically?
And we've got dogs. Lots of dogs. All right, let's get into it. All right, you leave me for a couple of weeks, Jesse, and a Trek appears in the studio. So I've been given the opportunity by a subscriber, not Trek, to ride this bike. Incredibly generous offer from them.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we've spoken about this bike in the past. Do you want to maybe just quickly catch people up on
Yeah, so
where
for
we
those
were?
that haven't been following about the Madone, as I like to call it, Trek release it, claim it's as fast as the old Madone, lighter than the old Amonda, and it's the best thing since sliced bread. We kind of go, doesn't look that quick. The reviews on it aren't that glowing. There's a few things going on with the geometry, and basically we call it a dog. Certified dog. Tour Magazine test it. When you take the aero bottles off, it's significantly slower than the old Madone, and it's kind of left there. A few people leave comments and have messaged us saying they love the bike. Oh, it's way better than my S5 and things like that. So there was always this thing where we're pretty convinced it's not a very good bike, but the only person that's ridden it up until now out of us two was you, and only on one demo day. So it's just a curious situation of us two sitting here talking about it. Well, if you actually spend some time on it, is there something in it that we're not quite realizing? And that's what you got the opportunity to find out. I mean, sitting here looking at it again in person, there's not a lot of aero features on it. I just want to reiterate that. I mean, the down tube is like the TCR. It's a box.
You're stealing my notes, Jesse? Yes.
Yeah. The S5, the Air Road, the System 6, my Tavello, the down tube is an oval with the narrowest part facing the wind. Now, that's not as good for stiffness and other things like that, but they managed to make it work. This is a box. Mm-hmm. This is like a TCR. So the down tube's not that aero. Okay, you stick an aero bottle on it, it extends the tube out, so that helps it a little bit. There's a bit of depth in the fork. There's some slimming going on through the head tube, but there's really no depth to any of the seat tube or the seat stays. It's got drop seat stays. But again, looking at it in person, we've kind of said it before, it doesn't really look that fast. You can kind of see why in the testing it's not up there with the old Madone, and it's also not up there with the likes of a S5 or a system Super 6 even. And just in terms of personal preference, I to the first day I saw it when you brought the demo one back, and to this one now, and even when I see it in photos, I find it really personally uninspiring. It doesn't really do much for me. The look of it, it's just, I don't really like it. But before you just get into describing the ride quality of it, what does it weigh? Because this was the catch-up where they said it was as light or lighter than the Amonda, and then Dave Arthur and all the guy in the US bicycle station, they're weighing it going on. It's like mid-sevens in the top spec. It's not that light. So have you weighed it? What are we talking weight-wise?
With pedals and that Cade computer mount, with SRAM axis, with the Aeolus wheels,
30 mil
Pirelli tires, 7.32 kilos.
With pedals?
With pedals.
In a size?
54.
Size 54, 7.32.
120 mil stem, 7.32.
That's all right.
It's all right.
It's
in line with my S5.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
What does your S5 weigh?
7.48.
With the 60 mil wheels or the 40 mil wheels?
The 49 43s.
Okay. It weighs what? 7.48.
So
it's only 200 grams heavier.
Yep.
Okay.
And now,
I mean, the new.
I don't care, Jesse. I don't care.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit here and talk about 200 grams, 150 grams. I'm not going to talk about 500 grams. I'm done with weight.
Yeah, but they said it's lighter than the Amonda.
They did.
It's 100% relevant.
Then again, I think I saw. Yes, they did say it was lighter than the Amonda. You're right. But then,
I mean, the new Scott Attic, that top spec, that one's like it's 5.8 out of the box or 5.9. Anyway, that's the weight.
That's
Okay.
the weight.
Let's move on.
That's moving on. I've been given, the opportunity to ride this was pretty incredible because I was able to do all the riding that I do with this bike, which is what I wanted. I was not interested in doing a pandering around ride review. Look, very briefly, when you're riding in endurance, you're just cruising, the bike's fine. If you want to buy TREK's flagship road race bike to ride tootle around on, you'll be very happy with it. It's quite comfortable. There's no noticeable compliance issues vertically through the front or through the rear when you're tootling along quite happily. It's quite planted, I would say, would be the nice way for me to talk about it riding along. Very, very comfortable to steer. Unsurprising.
Okay.
Confident, inspiring, unsurprising.
It's good.
Okay?
Rate it.
Good. As a performance bike, that's where this falls apart. Completely falls apart. It's like it's a Jekyll and Hyde. As soon as you go over 40 kilometers an hour, this thing just disappoints me.
The part of the review about holding its speed, to me, is irrelevant because we know how fast it is because Tour Magazine's tested it. So you could have said, oh, it holds its speed amazingly, and I'd just revert back to the Tour Magazine's testing. Or you could say it's the slowest bike ever, and I'd say I'd just revert back to the Tour Magazine. So your perception of how fast it is in terms of speed being held, I actually don't care at all. It's like you saying, oh, it feels kind of light. I'm like, well, I can just put it on the scales and weigh it. I don't care how heavy it feels.
That's really interesting to hear because I think there's a lot of people out there who completely disagree with you, who would take, and maybe I'm one of them, who would take the tour testing number as a gauge. It puts it in a category. Now, the tour testing of this particular bike puts it in a not a very fast bike category. We do know that. Stepping back and having that knowledge and then still riding it, I'll be honest, I tried to go into this without any of that in the back of my brain. But I immediately knew that was not the case, Jesse. When you're on a fast bike, it's like you're on a wave. You're on the tip of a wave and the wave's starting to break and you've caught the wave and you're coming down the other side of it. It's you in Bali.
Yeah.
It's Coyle just flying down on his Lilo. Happy days. He's on the wave. That's a fast bike.
Yep.
A bike that doesn't hold its speed, Jesse, you've missed it.
Yeah.
The wave's
kicking
broken.
your legs. You're trying to keep
your
up.
legs. You're
Yeah.
trying to catch up to that wave that's broken, and you've got to keep forcing power out to get to the wave. Do you know what? You can never get there. You can't get there.
No.
And that's what riding this bike is like. So, yes, I did my 310 watt tests. Yes, it tested a little bit slower than the S5 and a little bit faster than the TCR. I've only done it once, so take that for what it's worth. And I can see where this bike, you can almost mask that with the handlebar position, which is very, very nice. It's quite a comfortable bike to ride in a relatively aggressive Mick Cupid styled position with those shaped bars. They do bend in quite nicely. You can really adopt a nice head tucked position.
Okay.
And I can feel that. I can feel when I get up, I'm in at speed, in the rotation, and I'm in my aero position. I feel like I can cheat a few watts there, definitely. The moment you break out of that position, you're back off the wave again. You've totally fallen out the back. Now, crosswind performance. That setup that you see there basically was unacceptable, the way this dealt with crosswinds at speed. I had forgotten that feeling of that twitchy, blowy knock that you will get. I hadn't experienced it for quite a while. On that bike with those wheels, it was that returned. And again, I just don't think that's acceptable. And look, my thing with crosswinds and all this stuff, like, toughen up, people. Like, crosswinds happen. We ride our bikes outside. I actually think I'm very good at riding in crosswinds, personally, because I tend to be a lighter rider who's had to do that for some period of time. So I'm used to it. But that doesn't mean I'm still okay with that bike riding it. I did do one ride where I swapped those wheels out for my deeper reserves, and it did improve the situation. So I would be willing to say that those Aeolus wheels, which are pretty old, long in the tooth at this point, quite a narrow internals, are holding it back in that space. But I'm not really giving Trek a pass for that because this is their package and this is what I want to perform.
You obviously felt that. My only defense with that is that I've heard so many stories of this is the worst wheel in crosswinds. This is the best wheel in crosswinds. I rise a size 48. It seems like that crosswind stability thing is a bit of a black art depending on what tire you have, and then does that work with the rim and what size frame. I'm not convinced that it's as black and white as how light is the bike. I'm just going to put that out there. I guarantee there's going to be someone now with this bike that says this is the best crosswind handling bike they've ever ridden.
I'll accept that.
So,
yep. I
just thought it was worth mentioning.
I would argue everything I'm saying here is subjective, but, that's essentially what a ride review is at this point. But,
Okay.
I still think people value my opinion on it. The characteristic of this bike, the party trick of this bike, the thing that blew me away on this bike, and that I will walk back, is the way it handles a sprint. Now, I'm not churning out 1,600 watts. I'm on a good day, I might get to 1,200 if I'm really lucky. But this thing, I have never experienced a bike. I can blankly say this. I've never experienced a bike that makes up for a lack of strength, a lack of core stability. It allows you to get away with a lazy sprint incredibly. I don't know what's going on in that rear triangle, but you even saw it at the end of Milan San Remo where you've got Van der Poel, just that image of him sprinting is just absolute rock solid, right? Every watt is going through that rear wheel. Ganner on his wheel behind, who's just maxed out on his last legs, his rear wheel skipping all over the place because it's a mashy, lazy sprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
This bike somehow makes up for that. I have no idea how, but it is easily the party trick of this bike. I would go as far as saying if Jonathan Milan requested a bike, it was this bike. It's extraordinary the way it soaks that up. So,
because he can just get up out of the saddle, wrench on it.
He's
to
like
death,
dry
and
humping the
just goes.
thing, and it's just projecting him forward. And I've done 6 or 7 sprints on this, and I'm like, I was honestly flabbergasted with how well
That's
it performed.
a new one. It sprints so well it ejects you.
Well, no, it doesn't eject you.
Projects you. It's like hitting a booster in Mario Kart.
No, it's not. It's not creating watts for you.
Oh, okay.
It's soaking up your laziness.
Okay.
When you do a sprint and the rear wheel skips around and you've lost your strength? I don't know. I was absolutely impressed with the performance of the bike in that scenario. Apart from that,
well, that's good. There's a lot of people that punt around and have a sprint at the end of a race, and if you can do that, they're happy.
Yep.
Okay. But you thought it was relatively comfortable because I remember some of the reviews, like the bicycle station, they said, oh, it's really quite harsh. It's not as compliant as the previous generation. You think it's pretty good. Is it as comfortable as your S5?
Yeah.
About the same?
Yeah, about the same.
Okay.
But I know you're going to hate me for this comment, but I just feel like we're at this point, like with these bikes, that they cross a certain threshold. And then we add into this recipe the 30mm tyres at 55 PSI running tubeless setups, and this compliance and comfort thing starts to just all feel the same. So, yes, it's as-ish comfortable, but I don't want to harp on that because I think there's other factors here that are more important in 2025.
I do have a question. Okay. You don't care about weight. So the fact that it's not 6.8 kilos, you don't care about.
Not for an aero bike.
You've made a point many times you don't really care about weight. Okay. Comfort is pretty decent. Gets you in a nice position. So what you're giving up is some aero drag savings when you're up at speed. But what you're gaining is a bike that sprints better.
Mm-hmm.
If I put that all to you, I would make the case that that's not a dog of a bike. It might not be what you want in a bike, but it sounds like for a certain type of rider, that's a really good bike.
Yeah, absolutely. Not for me. It's a piece of shit for me. Like, it just is. There is nothing, apart from the sprinting, there is nothing compelling. There's nothing exciting. There is nothing that makes you see this bike, get on it and go, shit, yeah, today I'm on this.
But it's
nothing.
the sprint that does that.
That's a tiny party trick.
Okay.
It's like the TCR's party trick. That's that little snap when you're at 13%.
But there are a lot of guys whose the big ride is the Thursday morning hill route, and all you're doing is 1 minute surges and sprinting out of corners. And
the guy who owns this loves this bike. Came from a previous iteration Madone. Immediately noticed that it wasn't as fast, but has subsequently learnt to love the bike because he feels that it's a little bit lighter, snappier where he wants it to be, and sprints really well.
I'm
That's
struggling. Is it a dog of a bike, or because I don't know how you grade it? I mean, is it because you've kind of convinced me it's actually pretty good?
I've convinced you it's a really fine road bike. It is not a road race bike. This comes back to this for me, Jesse.
Okay.
This is not good enough
Okay.
from one of the biggest brands in the world to sell their flagship road race bike to be an uninspiringly, yeah, it's kind of nice. That's not good enough.
Okay.
If it was incredibly comfortable like this and super fast, maybe like an SL8, then I think we can have that argument that I've overplayed how bad this is. But this is not good enough from TREK.
Okay.
Because you also can't review or talk about this bike in isolation. The SL8 exists. The Super 6 Evo exists. The Giant Propel exists. Bikes that are either lighter, faster, cheaper. And we're going to talk about like our top 5 sort of privateer-y type bikes. And there's just no universe where this bike exists in that top 5 for me. And beyond that, like, it's an impossible bike to recommend to someone who's wanting to do sort of the kind of things I do. And so when you are taking the flagship bike of one of the biggest brands in the world and it is an impossible bike to recommend, it's the mutt of the litter. That's all. It's fine as the second tier bike. It's fine as the third tier bike. Put all the cafe influences on it and tell us that it's really nice to ride at 25 kilometers an hour. I'm happy with that, chat. But this is not. Don't try and tell me that this is the best you can do.
Okay.
So that's my issue with it. Can I just quickly say the water bottles thing they're fucking stupid. They're
Why?
so stupid. Like the mouth of them, you can't the opening, the diameter of the opening of the bottle is so small. You can't actually pour like mix or anything in or pour sugar into it. You got to like use little teaspoons to put them in. And then flowing that through to like a privateer race scenario where you've got to use multiple bottles, it's just ridiculous. Can I just quickly say big thanks again to a viewer who lent me this bike? And yeah, if there's any other people riding SL8s in a size 54 with 120 mil stem, I'll certainly give it a go. Right, so you were away last week, Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the show on the beach in Bali, getting angry as we chatted away. Anything there that was left lingering with you?
So for those that didn't follow, Chris did a chat with Outdoor Bros and in Grant, GC Performance on YouTube. There's a couple of things I just want to set, just to reiterate, because what happens is, if you talk to too many people and you go down too many rabbit holes, you just lose sight of reality. So I just wanted to just a quick update for everyone on a few things. Firstly, a more comfortable bike is what we want.
Mm.
So it's totally fine to say that, Chris Outdoor Bro said he prefers the SL7 because it's more exciting. It's a bit more stiffer. It's not as comfortable. It's not as muted as the SL8. And that's fine. If you like to be roughed up, to be bucked around, and so you prefer the SL7, That's totally, I'm with you. Same with Patrick Leno. But we need to always come back to what is the ideal perfect race bike? And the ideal perfect race bike is the most amount of comfort that we can possibly get to, so that you're not feeling any vibration and it's doing no muscle damage and it's completely soaking up everything. I just wanted to reiterate that because we're getting to a weird spot now where people are starting to go, well, I thought comfortable was good, and then he says he likes the stiffer bike, but do I want a comfortable bike? Or do I want, no one clarified that. So I just want to, it's like that's the Goldilocks bike is, as comfortable as an MV Malay, as aero as an S5, as light as a Scott Addict, and as stiff as a TREK Madone. Mm-hmm. Like that's what we would want to get to in 10 years.
Yep.
Just want to reiterate that. And the other thing as well, maybe this was with the Edwin chat that I didn't reiterate, but you've gone down a weird path where heavier, it's not just that weight doesn't matter, you think heavier is better with the wheels. Because you've ridden lighter wheels, and I have a feeling that you think a 1,450 gram wheel set is better than a 1,200 gram wheel set because it holds its speed more.
Yes.
Yeah. See, no. So that's just plain wrong.
Assuming the 1,400 gram wheel set is done correctly. Mm-hmm. So they're not pure like for like. I'm not just saying exact same rim profile.
No, but I'm saying exact same. It's the same. It's
no.
It's a reserve wheel set that are 1,450 grams now, and they managed to shave 200 grams off, but it's the exact same. They're just lighter.
No. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
No, I do definitely. Okay. My stance currently is that whilst we can debate over 150, 200 grams in a wheel set, mm-hmm. to me that now is not in the top 3 factors for why I would buy that wheel set. Okay. So if that was the weight difference, that would be like 4th tier for me in terms of the factors involved in putting those wheels on my bike to race. That's where I'm at currently.
Okay, got you. All right. Just clarifying. But in theory, if we're talking, keeping in mind, what do we want to see in 5 years? Lighter is better, assuming the crosswind stability is just as good, durability and stiffness, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm glad.
I am open to the concept of a rim being optimized for a 36 millimeter tire as well. So by that I mean I'm willing to because I assume that will then mean that rim or that wheel will be lighter, heavier. So I'm potentially willing to go down that rabbit hole of, you can add another 100 grams to my wheel set. I'm okay with that if there's optimization further around those wider tires.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't desperately need my wheel sets to be 900 grams in 5 years' time.
Because there was a few weeks there where I feel like I could have pushed you to say, no, a 2 kilogram wheel set's good because it's more rotating mass and so it holds its speed.
And that is definitely due to the feeling that I haven't been able to get a 1,200 gram wheel set to give me the sense of stability, plantedness, and speed that I've got out of a 14 to 15 yet.
Okay.
Yet.
Cool.
That's all.
Yeah. Because the reason why I say that is because if you've admitted that you don't really follow that, but if that logic was true, you would be putting lead strips to your wheels to get the rotating.
Get me on the air.
No one's doing that, right? So that logic doesn't follow.
What did you think of my subjective Chris at Heffron? Have you experienced that at all? Do you have any?
Explain.
I mentioned that since going to wider tires and lower tire pressures, specifically at Heffron, which is this very rough road surface, that I'm consistently able to put out more power. Does we're different, but
I don't like the analogy you used. Was you quoted that Cycling News article and said, because it's X% more efficient, that's explaining why I can put more power out. That's just talking about energy in and then what's lost through the tires, so it's more efficient. That's not what you're explaining. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. If you're not getting bucked around and you're overall more comfortable because the bumps are getting absorbed, well, yeah, you'll be able to do more power.
So that's not efficiency then?
No.
Okay.
That's just a biomechanical. It'd be yeah. It's just a biomechanical or muscular fatigue thing. What they're talking about is, well, if you do 100 watts in the tires, you're getting bumped around, you're losing 30 watts. Well, it's more efficient if you can have a wider tire and you're only losing 15 watts, which is different to actually doing more power.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought like that, just coming back to that 40 mil tire article, this is a total data vacuum. Like us roadies have nothing really in this. And I actually think it was, if anything, it undersold. I was blown away by the results on this. I mean, get rid of the cobbles. Things are relevant. We don't ride on cobbles. We can't say, oh, you saved like 60 watts on cobbles, so we can, like, we can't. Cobbles are way different than like a chip seal road compared to a smooth tarmac. But even just looking at the smooth tarmac, the Hunt rim with a 28C tire, the results actually don't make that much sense. So yeah, they had a 26C tire on the Hunt rim. That was the standard. Put a 28 on, it lost 6 watts. But then put a 30 on, and it only lost 1 watt. And then put the 32 on, and it lost 3 watts again. To me, that doesn't make sense. It should be linear in that the narrowest tire is the standard, and it either gets slower or faster from there. It got slower by 6 watts and then came good again. I have no idea what the hell's happening there. You then go to the, and then the 35C on the Hunt rim only lost 1 watt. I mean, that's just to reiterate, rolling resistance wise, that means you can, if you're currently running 25s or 28s, you can basically put a 35 on and the rolling resistance is the same. We're literally splitting hairs. And that'll be, that's also at the recommended tire pressure. And the recommended tire pressure really helps out the wider tires. That'll be unbelievably more comfortable and way more grip and way more puncture protection for basically the same rolling resistance. That is unbelievable. And then the question is, well, what's the how much? This is where the article answered. Well, but it's got to be like way slower, doesn't it? And so the watts lost for that 35C at the 40k an hour was 7.9 watts. That's significant. Less than I would have thought. Have you seen a 35 front tire?
Sorry, are you talking about aerodynamics now?
Yeah, aerodynamics.
Okay, right,
that's the aerodynamics. So the aerodynamics, you're only losing 8 watts. And that's front and rear tire. What if you just put the 35 on the rear and you kept your 32 on the front? So, the 30 on the front only lost 2.6 watts, which is, again, hardly anything. Then you put your 35 on the rear where the aerodynamics doesn't really matter. And this is a whole nother game. So this is where we get asked more questions, because I'm going here, well, what if I use staggered widths and put a 35 or a 40 on the rear where there's almost no aerodynamic penalty and just kept my 30 or 32 on the front? That's where there's even more gains to be made here. And that's on a relatively narrow rim. The aerodynamic losses on the wider rim is then even less. So if you go 35 on the front, that loses 8 watts on the Hunt rim. But if that was a wider rim, that could easily be halved. So you could almost be losing less than 5 watts with a 35 mil front tire. I don't know. I feel just when I was going through this, it changed my opinion on my tires. I think it's pretty clear now that you should basically run the widest rear tire that you can possibly fit in your frame. Unless you have a gravel bike that can fit a 40. If you can fit a 35 and you're doing road racing, you should probably just run a 35. And then you just have to weigh up that on the front. I know when you were at the chat, you were a bit, maybe not quite as
I was super bullish on it.
You were?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of was blown away by it as well. I was trying to hype the other boys up about it. No, to me, like the bigger takeaway was the trends. I mean, yes, that as well, but the trends that wider rim Zip Explore wheel set showed, which lent further into this idea of that rim being optimized for wider tires, was not only showing better efficiency results, but the aerodynamic performance, the aerodynamic hindrance was getting less and less the more that got optimized.
Yeah, just to reiterate, so the Zip with the 32C tyre compared to the Zip with the 40C tyre, because it's so wide, it's only 5 watts slower. With a 40, like, that's massive.
But this comes
How
back
is that only 5 watts slower at 40k an hour? It's huge.
It's huge. I know.
I mean, I can't like, this is very, but if you're a road rider, you should be really happy now with what's to come. We're going to be rolling around on friggin' mountain bike levels of comfort at this rate. Like, this is actually huge. People say, like, the industry doesn't move. The bikes that we're riding in 5 years are going to be so comfortable. The grip's going to be insane. Like, I'm really excited by this. And again, they didn't test that staggered front and rear. I mean, they did a really good job, but there's still a lot of other options that you can play around with here.
But this then comes back to this wheel set thing, and you were asking me about it. And the reason I said I'm willing to negotiate when it comes to weight, when we talk about rim optimization, because the reality of this is your wheels are going to get heavier. Because those Zip Explore wheels are pretty heavy. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they're big and wide.
Yeah, but
so
Zips are heavier anyway.
Yes, but just they're physically going to be big. And so this is going to be a touch point that you're going to potentially see wheel sets that are wide and optimized for wide tires that aren't going to be playing around that 1,200 gram weight area. I don't think. I'm happy to be proved wrong on that. But that's why I stressed I'm open to ideas when it comes to it. Okay. Because the idea of riding around a 38 that's kind of aero, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Get me on board.
If you can just get out of your head that it's slow, the feeling. Oh yeah. I'm totally. I
might even ride in the rain in those conditions.
Can I add one more thing to that? The other thing that we mentioned when we were talking about the wider tires a few months ago, when we were talking about 35, now they're talking about testing 40s, was that I think I mentioned if you can take that Conti, that Conti Aero tire where they put the cuts into it, potentially because the tire's so wide, I would assume there is more ground to be made by different tread patterns and aero savings because that tire's so wide. So there's another place where could be ground to be made up there on the aero saving. So again, this testing that Cycling News did was really good. And for us roadies, get excited. We're not at peak road bike just yet. They're managing to find gains.
The strangest thing I've found when it comes to the take-up of this is the people who push back on it are actually the people who would probably benefit the most from this. And it nauseates me. I'm just done with it. I don't care if you want to keep riding your narrow, high-pressure tires because they beat you up and feel like you're going fast. That's perfectly fine. I don't know. Because I just know, they're on about wide tires again, industry shields, all this stuff. I just don't know what the tipping point's going to be.
I kind of get your point in that the person that gets a bit pissed off with all the aero chat because like, well, I'm not riding that fast. Well, then get excited. At least get excited for this. Yeah. Like, surely this would be more in that person's ballpark because the savings are comfort and rolling resistance. It's just universal no matter what the speed. So surely this would then get them on board. But then you got to run you got to do tubeless. So then maybe the tubeless is the holdback.
So today's show part is Silka, and we want to highlight a couple of products on their website at the moment, Jesse. What do you want to talk about?
The new one. Yeah, the big one is the Silka Ultimate Tubeless Sealant, just updated about a month ago. So they've taken the old tubeless Ultimate Sealant with the carbon strands in it and just made it better. So it lasts up to 6 months inside the tire, so it doesn't dry out as fast. You can also inject it through the valve, so it's easy to top up as you go along, and still seals those big punctures up to 6 millimeters and above.
Right, so while you are on the website, Jesse, picking up the ultimate sealant, I'm going to throw a few extra things in your basket. Something that is quite poignant to me at the moment are bottle cages. Anyone who's seen my Peaks video. So the Sikoro titanium bottle cages, they're a titanium bottle cage that tagline, never lose a bottle again, with this incredible titanium bottle cage. Lightweight design. It doesn't mark your bottles, allows easy access, and holds your bottles on the worst terrain. I think that might be certainly on a Chris Miller gravel bike spec coming very soon. The other thing I wanted to just highlight is the Super Presta digital floor pump. Getting your tire pressure right, running tubeless, is very, very important. A digital pressure that goes on and off really easily, and so when you pull it off, it doesn't leak out air and you're losing 2 or 3 PSI, and now you're not sure how much is in there. The Super Presta digital floor pump does that really well. So if you are on the website, think about popping those on using code NEROSHOW for 15% off all the items. And a big thanks to Silka for supporting today's episode. Milan Sanremo, Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Race of the decade. Race of the decade.
Was quite good.
Certainly one of the better Milan Sanremo thing I've ever seen in my life. But so Mathieu van der Poel wins. 3-up sprint with Cade and Pipo.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you when it comes to Mathieu van der Poel.
Okay.
Why is he so good? No, okay, because I know that sounds like a stupid question, but Cade is incredible. We know why Cade is basically better than everyone when it comes to most races, because ultimately his watts per kilo are better than everyone, and so on a hill he can ride away from everyone because he's going faster. Mm-hmm. And you can throw other things in like the durability and all that sort of stuff as well. But then you got this Van der Poel guy whose his watts per kilo aren't going to be Cade level. He's not a sprinter. But why is he almost borderline unbeatable when it comes to these monument events?
His raw aerobic power is still, when he's in good shape, is still, like his threshold's probably 440. His 5-minute power would probably be 550 watts or something. Like he's still,
and
he's still at the top. Okay, he's got this punch and this sprint sort of thing going on, but underneath that is still an engine that is allowing him to follow Pogačar on the Cipressa when everyone's getting dropped.
So that engine you're talking about, what percent is there? 10 other guys, do you think, in the world? Is it just him who has that capacity?
No. But the other guys that have that, firstly, don't have the anaerobic capacity, the 30-second
so what does that mean,
power.
30-second power.
No, they don't have the They don't have the 1-minute power. They don't have the 30-second power, and they don't have the sprint power. Like his sprint power. I remember looking at his training. He used to upload all his training on Strava from when he was just transitioning onto road. And he can still go out and he'll do sprint training sessions and just repeatedly do 1,500 watts. So he's still got a really big sprint, which a Jorgensen or someone of that ilk, a Brandon McNulty, doesn't have. And they also don't have the 30-second power that he does. And they also don't have the skills to ride. Well, okay, they probably do, but not to his degree. They don't have his bike handling skills to get through the classics race, so they're probably not going to want to go and do one. And they know that when they hit a 1-minute climb, they won't be able to follow him. So that's what makes him special. Is he's aerobically close. Wouldn't have the watts per kilo of a Brandon McNulty for the longer durations, but he's not far off in a relatively big group of riders. But he just also has the kick. But all you see is the kick. You would just think, oh, he's really good because his 30-second power is good, but it's not. That's kind of his X factor. It's the aerobic side, I would say, which is makes him just so incredible.
So when Cade launches on the Cipressa and he's the only one well, okay, Ghana was there as well, but he's the only one who can go with that. Is that 30-second power that you're talking about? Because what seems to happen when Cade attacks is people can follow him for the 30 seconds, but then they're fucked.
No, it's because they don't have the 5-minute power.
Okay.
They don't have the VO2 max. They don't have the 10-minute power. But that's the difference between a Ghana and a Van der Poel. Obviously, Ghana's bigger, so his 5-minute power as a raw number would be bigger, but he doesn't have the punch. He doesn't have the anaerobic capacity like Van der Poel does and the acceleration. So, yeah, even if the watts per kilo are similar, that's what makes Van der Poel on another level. That's the problem. He's ahead of the rest of the pack that couldn't follow aerobically in a 5-minute effort. And even if they could, he's still ahead of them because he'll still do 1,000 watts for 30 seconds, and they're cooked doing 850.
Yep.
So he's just got them done when he's in shape.
Okay. Now that answers the question. Because I mean, this is a guy who wins a lot of races. But
if he wanted to, if he really tried, I do think he could just be like a Wout van Aert in a Grand Tour. You've seen him in the time trials when he's going for the yellow jersey. Like, he's still up there. He just chooses not to focus on it because he's got other avenues to have success. But if he wanted to, he would be an amazing climber in his own right. Wouldn't even have to lose that much weight. It's not that heavy. The bit about him that I've always struggled with to get around is how he gets into such amazing form relatively quickly. And then there's other races where you're just like, how? That's the guy that was just smacking Pogačar up the Poggio. And now you're kind of doing a sloppy lead out, and pulling off with a kilometer to go. And that was only 2 months ago. Whereas the other good riders are generally, if they follow a more consistent trend. So I'd have to see what his training is in more detail, but that's always the thing that just gets me. Is he kind of? I think it was last year when he was the world champs. He kind of bopped around the tour, and then a month later, he's riding everyone off his wheel easily at the world champs, and that's the bit where I just go, "That's just I don't know how. That's amazing."
He's definitely got some sort of mental block when it comes to the tour. I think he's said it on a few times. He just doesn't like the race, which I don't know. That's a bit of a cop out potentially, just to say I don't like the tour. Would there be potential? Like physiologically, that if he did turn himself into a climbing / Grand Toury type person, that he then has to do that at the cost of this punch that you're talking about, and that is potentially a sacrifice, or a danger of a sacrifice that you're just not willing to give up.
Yeah, because he would have to lose a little bit of extra weight. He would. And then if you're looking at things like a Grand Tour, he would have to do more heat-specific work. He would have to do more sustained aerobic work. And when you're filling your week out with all of that, you don't have the sessions to do 4 hours and do 20 sprints and do the 1-minute efforts that he would usually be doing. So he would have to pull that out to excel in the other areas, and then just naturally, because of that, he would lose it. And then obviously they've weighed that up and gone, well, why would we bother? Because he's already got plenty of strengths. He's already got that.
And plus, you then have to compete against guys who,
and he's still not doing 7 watts per kilo for 30 minutes. So it's just it's just pointless. Back in the like the 2015s.
Yep.
Maybe he'd be tempted because the gap wasn't as big. Now the gap is just ridiculous. It would just be totally pointless.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's not going to bother.
Favorite bike from San Remo?
I have respect for the utility of Ganna's setup. He's got the stack up kind of high. He's clearly on a big frame. It looks kind of shit because the head tube's so tall. The position's not that sexy. It's just your bog standard kind of aero roadie bloke.
No one's ever called a Pinarello Dogma bog standard. Anyway, go on. I'm liking this.
Just the setup, the bike, the whole thing with him. You just look at him riding and just like, there's no flair, there's no panache to really anything he's doing, but he doesn't really care because he got second at San Remo. So that one I like just for that. The other two have this kind of panache thing thing. He's just like, nah, whatever.
Geez, the Y1 looked good.
Yeah.
On the chop off between the Cipressa and the Poggio. Geez, that look it made the aero look second rate. Like you're like, oh, what's that handlebar like crossing? You don't need those on your bike. Just get a Y1. Yeah, no, I was impressed with that. Look, this isn't a dog of the bunch, but it's just the disappointment of the bunch for me. And that is Julian Alaphilippe's BMC Team Machine Arm masterpiece. The most anti-Julian Alaphilippe bike I think I've seen in a long time. Like, okay, yes, it's the custom carbon layup. I'm sure that's absolutely majestic to ride. But he's got these Schwalbe 1 tires with inserts in them. That's another thing. I don't know why pros are riding inserts. Why are they getting punctures in the first? They haven't got a puncture on a friggin' tubeless setup in 2 years. Like, why are we now needing to run inserts all of a sudden? I don't know. I just felt like this was a very underwhelming bike from a...
It has so much potential, though.
So much potential.
GT Swiss wheels, Schwalbe Pro 1s, which are just not it. With inserts. I guess and they're not hookless, so what's the insert is if you get a flat, and the team car's not right there, you can roll on it for a bit. All right. It could be easily the hottest bike in the bunch. If it had, what wheel set would you put on this? The Steez.
Envies. I did like the 3D printed Stellar Italia Boost saddle, but like €700. So I think they priced up this bike. It was like €32,000,
yes.
something like that. So maybe there is Steez in that.
Imagine if he was running the new Specialized Ares 2 shoes. He'd bump it up to 33,000.
Saves 2 watts a shoe.
Those. Do you have chat on this? I had to call out one thing, the shoes. It's not 2 watts per shoe.
No.
They're claiming the secret formula of their metatarsal button, the varus wedge, and the longitudinal arch.
Beautiful.
It culminates together for a nice 7-watt saving at lactate threshold. Speaking of absolute shot in the dark claims, they could have said anything. 25-watt saving, 30-watt saving. I mean, what is that?
Well, yeah, given...
Imagine if that was true. You just put the shoes on, you do your ramp test, and you're 7 watts higher. Brilliant.
It's just fantastic. You haven't done any training for 2 weeks. Doesn't matter. Put two 7 watts on. This is borderline criminal to just start with this sort of stuff. Though it doesn't surprise. I don't know if you saw any of. I don't know if it was this shoes. I think it was these shoes that GCN then put through the efficiency jig at the Silverstone wind tunnel, and Peak Talk has ripped them to shreds on that because essentially you're doing an efficiency test. So whilst they're changing your shoes, it's measuring the power at the pedal and then what goes through the rear wheel. And then they change the shoes again, and they're again testing the power at the pedal and the rear end. So you're testing the power going in is the same number. It's all happening.
That's weird.
Before the two so they get to the end and like, oh yeah, there's no difference between the power that you're putting in and the power in the efficiency. I'm like, well, yeah, because you're putting the same power in. Like you're not changing the input. The input's the same.
No, well, the inputs, if the input's different from the rider, like if that changes the power output the rider can do, but that doesn't change the efficiency downstream of that. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it has to happen downstream of
that's what
where
I meant. Downstream. Sorry, that was the
where the power's coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously if they've got it set, if you're having to ride at a set power, then it's not going to change anything. But even if you didn't ride at a set power, it's just you're measuring the efficiency after you've put the power out. That's the whole point. I didn't actually see that video. Yeah. That's
kind of embarrassing, actually. Right. I think
you would have to
potentially should take that down.
Where the gains, if you wanted to theoretically see what the difference is, you'd have to be doing a gas analysis, measure the oxygen consumption, and then swap the shoes. and see what the oxygen consumption difference is or the calorie burn difference is at the same power, then because that's where the shoe's transferring the power.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird video.
Yes. I'm really shocked that one got through the kind of production process. And also, and Peak Talk sort of mentions this, he's like, how did no one at the Silverstone wind tunnel sort of go, lads, what are you doing? This isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Like,
if you want to measure how efficient a shoe is, you need to measure internally what the rider's doing.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Not what's happening.
Not what's
on
happening
the road.
after the effect.
Oh, that's right. Okay, brilliant.
All right, a couple other YouTube things after I sort of segued onto it. Jasper Verkuijl put up his Gravel World Champs video. I'm big into my event videos.
Wasn't that event
Jesse.
ages ago?
Was ages ago. Ages ago. But I enjoyed it from multiple aspects. Number one, kind of entertaining to see what actually took place in the age group categories of this, because, from my own personal voyeurism, I'm, considering this sort of stuff in the future and actually to see how it played out. So he's in the 34 to 39, that sort of Masters 2 category type thing. So he doesn't have a priority start. He has to start like 600 riders back, and it's just like this chaos of going through people, which was interesting to see. I also really appreciate his sort of slight arrogance that he brings to his videos. I quite enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
And his take on the UCI Gran Fondo-y, like the actual qualification for this is a joke. It's not as if you're getting the top 0.4% of people to represent their country. And how that then plays out in a quote-unquote race scenario pisses... And he's doing the same sort of stuff that I'm sort of saying, that like you start catching other age groups and it completely changes the race dynamic, because all you are doing is really a time trial. You're just riding as hard as you can for 4.5 hours to catch as many people as you can. The tactic of a bicycle race doesn't exist. It's not like you're going to sit on for a bit and attack into a certain area. It's just keep going in front. You have to keep going to get further and further forward. So I don't know, I kind of appreciated that being articulated, and seems like he can handle a gravel bike, which is kind of cool. The only other one was Cade they bought a Specialised LA.
Yep.
Like I think it sort of do it as like the cheapest Specialised you can buy. He did his normal sort of thing on that, but then did like the 4 or 5 things that you would upgrade first on this bike. I actually quite like this list, and I liked the order of the list, because number 1 was tyres.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that, I haven't watched many of these videos recently, but I don't think that, I haven't seen that very commonly. Normally people just go, the wheels. Upgrade the wheels straight away, first thing. But I do think, if even beyond bang for your buck, I just even think bang, tyres is the thing. Like, if we were ever loaned a bike, even when I'm lent this thing, the first thing I did was look at the tyres and go, factor that in, Chris, to your thoughts on this. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Absolutely.
Secondly, bar tape. Rated this as well.
Oh.
I think that's an immediate, especially if it's a total shit piece of cork.
So what was wrong with the bar tape?
Oh, it was the slippy cork, bargain basement, cheap ass stuff.
Okay.
I think that's a real upgrade. You'd feel immediately.
Okay.
Saddle, number 3.
I agree with this one.
I just really like he went straight for points that matter. So saddle, definitely. Ideally, you go to one that you know, obviously, but saddle was that one. And then we got to, because it was disc brake bikes, he suggested swapping out the ones that came with it with it was a TRP set of calipers, which was
so just swap the calipers.
Swap the calipers out
because it's a
mechanical.
Yep. So there's a cable. You don't have to do the hydraulics.
Yep. Oh, that was a really interesting.
So different calipers can get more pull.
And he showed this. It was like I think they described it as like 80. He felt like it was 80 to 85% as good as a hydro brake with this particular caliper.
Okay.
And it was like this caliper, get this one. Kind of like that. But it wasn't like, just generally get something better, but this one.
Did they miss anything? There's 4
and then the
things.
fifth one was wheels. But at that point, you're getting to like, okay, that's probably the next step. But they didn't actually upgrade the wheels in this because they were quite happy with it, which was where that was left. So I don't know. I just thought that was worth mentioning because I hadn't watched one of those videos in a while, and I would suggest that the order that they gave, if it was a video like this 10 years ago, would have been completely different.
The other one that I really enjoyed recently, cycling YouTube, was Shane Miller's bike radar expose, I think we can call it. I mean, what on planet Earth was going on there? Did you watch this?
Oh, yeah. I had ridden that Magic Shine one.
Oh.
I thought it was a joke. I didn't even know it had been put out to market. I got sent this a while ago, and I was riding it down south. And I remember going up Berry Mountain, and Berry Mountain's very quiet, and this thing is just constantly beeping at me, telling me that there was cars behind me. I literally never used it again and didn't think about it again until I saw Shane Miller's video.
So for those that didn't see this, Shane Miller purchased 3 different radars because he's a big fan of the Garmin rear radar that highlights when cars are coming up behind you. And in-depth tested all 3 of them, and pretty much unequivocally, all 3 of them just didn't work. Not even really close. So a few issues. The false positives was a big one, where you'd be riding and then, beep, 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 car behind you, and he turns around, there's nothing there, which is dangerous in its own right. And then obviously the other type of issue where it misses a car coming up, which is also potentially even worse. And all 3 of them had not a couple of mishaps, were just across the board, didn't work and are still for sale. And he was basically saying like they need absolute across the board product recalls on all 3 of them because they just don't work. And also made worse that it's a safety product. To have a safety product that doesn't work is a whole nother level. What's your thoughts on this? I mean, how can the brands, so it was, just to reiterate the brands, Magic Shine, IGP Sport, so they're 2 Chinese brands, and then Giant. They just sell them.
They're still available.
I mean, they don't work.
I saw someone trying to promote the Giant one the other day on Instagram, who will remain nameless.
What?
An Australian bike rider, sponsored by Giant. Yeah. This was the one where they did the fake comments as well.
I didn't see this fake comments thing.
So this was I think it was the IGPS Sport started leaving comments on the video saying things like, "Oh, thanks for your feedback, Shane, blah, blah, blah. Products are sometimes hit and miss, etc., etc." And he follows them up and chases down the usernames and discovers that they're IGPS Sport email addresses.
Oh dear!
And it's a whole thread on his Twitter. Actually, it's the second time that it's happened to him. I think he had it with Brighton, was another brand that started doing the fake comments on the negative videos. But anyway, needless to be. Yeah, look.
But they're not negative videos. It's just you don't have a working product. Why would you bother even trying to? Like, it's not as a couple of issues.
Yeah, could you imagine this in like a smartphone industry, releasing phones that just start dialing? Let's just start dialing for no reason, and then they're like, "Oh, no, we'll keep selling them."
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it was very interesting, and just the effort that Shane put into that video is incredible. That would just be an absolute headache. Other equipment chat, gear chat. I was in the Cade store in Sydney yesterday. I saw for the first time the Wahoo Ace. I know this was old news because it came out quite a while ago and I'd never seen it.
Yep.
Oh my God. It is a power
Oh
bank.
my God.
It is. For those that, I just need to reiterate, those that haven't seen it, and those that have seen it will know what I'm talking about. It is huge, and it is heavy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is really hefty and thick. It feels like literally a power brick. I could not believe it. I was speechless. I picked it up and went, you got to be kidding me. This is a joke.
I mean, how that got through production meetings, product design meetings. Who were they sitting there going, there's our target market. We're going to get them with this Huawei tablet from 2004. Like, what are you doing?
Yep.
And not only did they release this joke of a product design, it's a half-baked software as well. Like, some of the stuff works, half the stuff doesn't work. It's any review you've seen on it thus far has just been, this is an absolute beta product at its like, and that's calling it nicely.
Worse. Yeah.
So, I mean,
because the problem is if it's heavy, and they go, oh, well, the battery life's probably quite good, but you've got ones with solar panels, so you don't need the massive battery life now. So it's kind of undone for us. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen this in person, go to your local bike store if they stock Wahoo, and just for a laugh, go and pick it up. It's hilarious.
The roam, you think, oh, it's going to be, off-road roaming. You could not put that on your bars.
No.
Imagine riding single track or something with that thing. There is no way that is staying on your handlebars. It's going to bounce off all over the place. I just think this is one of the most laughable releases I've seen in a long while.
I mean, it is a good word for it. It is. It's so, I always, when you hear people talk about it.
Yeah, I tried to.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's not until you hold it, you go, wow, this is hilarious.
No, it's a super disappointing. It is a super disappointing release because I think Wahoo had a real cult following. You're probably one of them who appreciated the simplicity of it and the usability of it and the form factor. I think you quite liked that sort of neat little bolt. This just seems like
that was the whole point. It was like, take a Garmin, you just strip out all the junk, and it's an Apple product.
All right, before we move on, I just want to been thinking a bit about Strava recently.
You've done this a few times, Chris.
I want a refresh of the way the metrics are displayed.
Okay.
Because I feel like people are getting away with shit they shouldn't be getting away with. I want real metrics here, people.
All right.
Okay. I want your average speed, because you see it's first. It's like one of the four main things you see on someone's ride. I want the average speed to include elapsed time. I don't want these 32-kilometre-an-hour rides that are 5 hours of riding, 9 hours of elapsed. Not acceptable. Your average speed then is 17.
Okay.
You don't get to Peaks Challenge and clock in at the bloody feed zones and go, we can chill now, boys. We're not on the clock. Doesn't work like that. Time is time. Average speed to include elapsed time. Number 2, this is all going to make us fitter and stronger, Jesse.
Good. All
Number
right,
2,
you tell us.
I want an additional metric shown in that little box. Number of stops. Still, it's kept in your fit file. How many times auto pause comes on? That's all I want. Number of stops. And then a nice little challenge can start happening with people. Like, 7. See if I can do a 4. Like to see it. Or make us fitter and stronger, Jesse Coyle. Number 3. This is a positive one, I feel. And the map shows your stops. Because there is the person out there that likes to see where the lookout is, the cafe is, that kind of thing. You want to share that information with your followers because that's your shtick. Happy to see it. Display it on the map where your stops occur.
Okay.
Shown in your profile is, you've got kilometers ridden this week, all that sort of stuff. Average number of stops per ride.
Jeez, you really?
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
I'd like to see that in there. Just add it in.
There's a theme here.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think that's it. That's it. I would just like.
Does a stop include traffic light?
So we can do a. We can.
Or is it you've stopped for a minute or longer counts as a stop.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd allow potentially 90 seconds
Okay.
for a real shock and traffic light. Yeah, I don't want people getting too stressed about these things.
Okay.
But yes, that's what I would like.
I will draft the email to Strava
Thank
now,
you.
including my pitch to be a verified athlete,
Yes.
which they haven't done yet, and I'll send that through.
All right. Should we do a dog or a fast?
Yeah, we've been waiting.
We
the
have.
certified dog or a fast bite brought to you by our friends at Pillar Performance, the sports micronutrition company. What do you got there, Chris?
So this is the tendon and ligament strength stuff. It's the collagen stuff. As you can probably see, I haven't actually been using that yet, but I have been using their creatine blend lately. So they do a creatine as well at the moment, on top of the magnesium that we have both been using at times throughout the last couple of months.
Yep, I'm still on the triple magnesium, can help your sleep, recovery, and cramping potentially.
So do go use code Nero at checkout for 15% off all the Pillar products on their website.
Thanks to Pillar, also supporting this segment of the Nero Show. What's the first bike on the radar? Ooh.
First bike, Jesse Coyle, is a Sorotto Duetti A9 alloy frame.
Okay. Oof. Good luck. Continue.
Force setup, 170mm cranks, Quark power meter, 4835 chain rings, 1033 cassette, a Whiskey Parts Company carbon seat post, Cadex amp saddle, S-Works alloy stem, 3T Superleggera bars, Yolio wheels, 50 front, 60 rear, Pirelli P0 race tyres, 30 mils, Shimano Ultegra pedals, TPU tubes.
Okay. There's a couple of little details I'm liking. First one, BB Infinite bottom bracket. They're those quite bougie one-piece ones that apparently help. Now, you shouldn't probably have bottom bracket issues in an alloy frame. Isn't that one of the selling points is the bottom brackets are aligned well? So I don't know why you'd need that, but I kind of rate it. PassQuest chain rings. That's the Chinese brand. That's cool. Again, TLR tires with TPU tubes. Please, can we stop using tubeless ready tires with tubes? It's not very good. If you're running tubes, look for clincher, non-tubeless tires because they're designed to be run with a tube. TLR tires are slightly thicker and they don't run as well with a tube. I really like the look of this bike, actually. I think I like the Oleo wheels. Fits the build well with the Force. I'm not going to give it. It's definitely not certified fast. I mean, external cables, alloy, seat stays up to the top of the seat tube there. So it's not certified fast, but I kind of like it. It looks cool. I'm not giving it dog. I can't give it dog because it's not trying to be a TREK Madone.
You've softened since you've left us. You've softened. I'm going to stick to my guns, Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick to my guns. It's a dog.
Okay.
It's going to be horrible to ride. Don't like it. Those alloy frame set up quite aggressively. Bash you around. He's going to try and tell me that this is a crit bike. I reckon it'll be an absolute flog as a crit bike. Like you mentioned, tube setup is not going to be helping anything to do with the comfort of this bike. I have to hold firm when it comes to my stance on an alloy bike. Mm-hmm. And as fashionable as and as influency and as sexy as that bike looks, don't get me wrong, I got a little look at it. End of the day, that's not why people are here at the Nero Show. They want to know performance, and this is a dog.
There's a rule in this segment where if someone claims dog and there's not a majority rule, the dog wins over the certified fast. So yeah, that's it. Certified dog, officially. Sorry, whoever sent that in.
No, I think people prefer their bikes to be called dogs.
Oh,
I genuinely do think most
okay.
people when we do talk about it come back to me and say, "Oh, thanks. Nice to know I've got a dog."
Thought it was a bit shit.
Shit. All right, so this next one.
Next one. What do we got?
This is, okay, so this is a Carbonda CFR
Oh, dear.
VT09.
Oh, no.
No branding, purchased directly from Carbonda in China.
Oh, no.
The frame is the same as the Vitus CX1
No,
Evo.
it's not the same. Stop lying to yourself. No,
Fast
it's not.
Sports 2025 C Series wheels, 50mm up front, 60mm in the rear, internal rim width 24mm, oh, it's acceptable. 28mm Conti GP5000s, setup tubulus, of course. Should we be requesting the sealant used in future? I think we should. We need to know sealants used.
Yep.
Group set is a second-hand SRAM Force. The saddle is a Physic Argo Vento R1. Handlebars is the FS1S 120/38. From Panda Podium himself, this was purchased. Jesse Coyle.
Jeez.
There it is.
Oh,
The speed machine, the Carbonda.
This is hard. This is a hard week.
I know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. What? Come on, give me something to rag on.
Can I go then?
Yeah.
I rate this
Okay.
fast bike, legit fast bike. I mean, look, there is no pretending that this will be pretty rough. Don't get me wrong, but 24mm rim internal. He's got 28. I mean, we can soften a few vibrations there, and I think in a straight line, you're chopping off. I'm calling fast bike. There is speed being held here. Speed is being held, unlike that other piece of crap.
Well, I'll have to. Yeah. I mean, it is not pretty. I mean, no one's desperate to go for a ride when they're looking at that hanging in the garage. But certified fast. I mean, it's a pretty good setup.
So the rider lives in central Catalonia.
Oh, okay.
Rolling hills, mostly rides alone. So do you want to have a guess at? I don't know what we need to know that.
Does no one want to ride with him because of his bike?
It was basically me. That's good. Do you want to have a guess? Numbers?
Numbers. That part of the world. His FTP is 4.5 watts per kilo, and I reckon he weighs, looking at the size of that frame, I reckon he weighs 70 kilos, so his FTP is 315.
Pretty close. FTP's claiming it's 330, so it's probably
it's on a ramp test, so it's actually 315.
Yeah,
okay.
315. And 72 kilos.
Okay.
Yeah. You got pretty bloody close there.
That's good.
Yeah, 184 centimetres. Yeah. Okay. So there he is. Thank you, Joe. Sadly, no. You do. Unfortunately, you have a fast bike. I know you wanted a dog, but you got a fast bike.
If you were buying a Carbonda, would you prefer this, or would you prefer like a Chinglish brand bike name?
They both scare me. They both scare me. I'd probably go Carbonda. I'd probably go Carbonda.
Big Carbonda on the side. Okay.
I'm just going to quickly follow this up, and you don't have to add anything to this, but I do want to just put this little list of bikes up because I get asked a lot about it, and I'm going to continue to refer to this. But this is my top 5 privateer race bikes as of March 2025. So essentially the 5 bikes in order that I would choose to race for the next 12 months. Something could get released next week, could slot its way in here, but this is as it stands currently. Okay, number 1, my bike. There's a reason I own it. There's a reason I ride it. It's what I choose. It's the S5 with the reserves and the SRAM on it.
You wouldn't change it to Shimano?
No.
Okay.
Not with that chainring.
Oh, if that's a
Yep. That's done.
That was a toss-up before.
Toss-up.
I think leaning towards Shimano.
No, done.
Okay.
Number 2, Brad Bannister's bike. That's Scott Foyle. I'll do a freeze frame. Brad, you might send me a picture of it. Scott Foyle, he has the Syncross wheels on it. Again, he's running, not sure actually the group set on it, but that bike, that Scott Foyle, custom built, definitely. Number 3, your Cervelo.
My Cervelo.
Interesting. Your Cervelo. Yeah. It is nuts how similar they are. Yeah. Like that name, but anyway,
Mhm.
I rate that bike, Jesse. I think you've stumbled on a bloody
Thank you.
I'm quite, but I would not get your colorway. If I was privateer racing, I would do the Mark Tucker spec black decals, and I would put some Envy wheels on there with white decals.
Okay.
Number 4 would be a Specialized SL8. However, it would have to be the Bora Hansgrove 2025 Team Edition. That frame that was sitting behind us at Bike Society in Adelaide, yoink! Chris takes that and rides that quite happily for the next 12 months. And number 5 would be a Cannondale Super 6 Evo. I have really come around on this. I think I could have a really good year on that bike. I would probably look to get those Vision wheels, the 60s on there. I wouldn't go far really off what that EF setup was, just as a general rule. But I do think I could have a really good 12 months racing that bike. So that's my current 5. Just wanted to put that out there.
I'll do my next episode, and we can go. All right. If you just had money to burn, I just gave you a lump sum of cash and just said you have to spend it on cycling, something to do with your riding, what would you spend it on? Because I got asked this question a couple of months ago. Kind of like, what's the next thing someone asked me, like, what's the next thing I should spend money on? I'm like, I don't really understand. Like, do you need something? If you don't like, to save it. What do you mean? Is it no? I want to spend it. I thought, okay. I actually really struggle to answer. So that's why I want to ask you. Magic Genie comes along and gives you a blank check for, not a blank check, let's say 10 grand for the season, and it has to be something bike related. What are you spending it on?
I think the challenge, I mean, for me, the answer is logistics and events. More
events or bougieing up your
probably
current
bougieing
events?
Up current events.
Okay.
Just making the experience of going to an event nicer.
What would you do?
What would I do?
Swan year?
Yeah, potentially do the thing that Vaughan's done, where he takes the bike there. Just make that a much easier, happier logistics setup. Maybe it's stay in a nicer Airbnb at the other end. Yeah, it's not going to be equipment based, and maybe it would be do an international Bondo-y racy thing, like an Atap the Tour or a Haute Route or something like
training
that.
Training camp?
No, not really.
Not interested?
Not interested in a training camp.
Okay.
No, it would be an event, definitely.
I'd love to do a training camp. That's what I'd put my money to.
Yeah, right.
If you ask me.
What, like
not for like 3 or 4 days. It's not long enough. I take a while to settle in. But give me 2 weeks in Chiang Mai.
Ah, Chiang Mai.
Yeah, somewhere hot.
Yeah.
It's always good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Good roads, climbing, or probably nowhere with racing. I don't really need a race at the training camp. Could do Bright.
I love your idea. So
Okay.
here's what I do. Chiang Mai training camp, month.
The full
month.
Okay.
Then, what are we training for?
That's the problem.
Taiwan KOM Challenge.
Oh,
That's a bucket list ride for me.
Is it?
Definitely, that's on my list.
So
I'd
do the
do
camp
a
and just
full
go
camp
straight there. Yeah.
and then straight there. Yep.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. I probably need a bit more than 10. Chiang Mai, you can stay somewhere. I don't know. Dan can sort me out. Yeah. That's I think what I'd do. It'd be full experience / fitness based.
I would love regular massage, releasing twice a week. Book it in. Have it booked in.
Come to you, surely.
Yeah, proper sport, and maybe not a massage, like a proper, get a physio in there, and like when I had back injuries, get in there, and you feel amazing after. But it needs to be regular, like twice a week.
Yep.
I'd put that into the schedule. I would also, I find, especially with a child, prepping my own food's really annoying. So I would pay for some super expensive food prep thing and just have all my meals ready. Not some slot microwave thing. Chef needs to cook it. Deliver it, twice a week. So something like that would help my training. That's probably what I'd spend money on.
Does a sauna fit into the criteria of cycling needs? Because that's what I don't know what they cost, but geez, I'd love one in the backyard. Just one of those little, no, not an infrared one. I want a proper hot coals getting out there.
Quite a few people have them. Like that's getting more common. Yeah, that could be on the list.
What's a pair of Novatech boots worth these days?
1,500,
okay.
$2,000.
Oh, got money to spare. All right. Is it interesting that both of us sit here for hours on end talking about equipment and froth and all these sort of expensive stuff, and then the minute we get asked, you can do anything with money, it has to be spent on cycling, both of us are talking about fitness and fitness gains. I think that potentially, I know we don't talk about it, but I know that's where we, number one, love this sport. Anyway.
For the person that asked this question, I probably wouldn't say saunas.
No.
It's a bit niche. It's a bit far down maybe in a couple of years.
I've got a feeling the person that asked this question, I think I remember the person too. SL8. You got 20K to spend. It's burning a hole in your pocket. You're at a Specialised store. Clearly that way inclined. Why not? There's no reason not to.
But he already had a decent. I remember I asked because he talked about that's why I was struggling to answer, because he said his bike. I can't remember what it was. I said, it's already pretty good. Like, you're probably just sidestepping if you buy a new bike.
Okay.
But he wanted to buy stuff. So that's why I think it's an interesting question.
All right, quick subscriber question, Jesse. This came across my desk. Do you want to read that out for me?
I recently broke a national record in the individual pursuit at the Australian TREK Nationals, but after waking up unwell the next morning, I was unable to compete in the 200 sprint. When I informed the Queensland team management, I was told that if I didn't race, I would be disqualified from the remainder of the championships. Interesting. Doesn't this policy seem unreasonable, especially for junior athletes? As a member of Oz Cycling, I believe we should have a stronger voice in advocating for more flexible and athlete-centered policies. Missing one day of the competition wouldn't harm anyone, but the current policy has made me consider leaving the sport altogether.
What's the rationale for being disqualified?
The precedent makes sense. If you're doing a tour and you're in the KOM jersey, you have to finish the race. You can't just leave halfway through. That goes to the next person in line because you're out of the race.
Yeah, but aren't these individual events? This is like saying, isn't that like saying, well, you didn't start Tour of Flanders, so now you can't do Roubaix.
I'm not. The only thing potentially is happening, this might not be a championship rule. This might be a Queensland state team rule where they say, we want all our riders to do all the events. Even though they don't need to, it's just a policy of us. We want you to get the most out of it. We want you to do all the events. And so they're not happy that for this athlete to miss one. And so they're saying, well, you either do it or we kick you out. If that's the case, that also seems unreasonable. If you're sick and you've missed an event for a good reason, they should take that on board and say, okay, skip one, you just come back for your next event when you're healthy. So if that is the case, then I don't know what the Queensland state coaches are doing there. That doesn't seem right.
What's the rationale there? Is it sort of the old school, you just got to do all the events?
Potentially, it's a bit of an old school. We don't want people being soft and having outs. So it's either you do all the events, or if you're sick, you just go home and you don't get to do any of the others. Which seems, that does seem outdated. If someone is actually sick, if that is the case, it wouldn't surprise me, because sometimes these things just run. These state things just run on weird rules, and people don't. There's not much critical thinking going on. It's just, that's just what we do. You're like, well, why do I have to do that? And it's just how we did it. Yeah. So if that's the case, which potentially, based on what they said, it wouldn't have harmed anyone if I took a day off competition. It sounds like they're just being stitched up by some outdated team management, which is unfortunate, especially when you're working with juniors. You need to, I don't know, just relax.
But don't quit the sport.
No, don't quit.
Don't quit.
Yeah. State racing update. In Australia, when we go into winter and daylight saving ends, we go into our state road racing calendar, which has been a bit thin on the ground the last couple of years. It's looking okay this year. There's some things in there. There's 4 rounds of a state series events, and there's a couple of other one-off events. I just wanted to chat to you about it. So one of the long-standing races was the Tolland Handicap Weekend, which used to be a Saturday and a Sunday. It's about a 5-hour drive away. So you would book your ACOM for the Saturday night. The racing would start in the afternoon on the Saturday, so you'd have time to drive down there. You do your 80-kilometre handicap, which is really good quality racing. Stay the night in Wagga. Wagga Wagga. The town's so nice, I named it twice. Sunday morning, you get back up. 8:30, the handicap starts, and you drive home in the afternoon. So you got 2 good quality race days, handicap racing, for one night's accommodation, which was good. Unfortunately, they changed that this year, and Tolland then became 1 race on the Saturday. And it looks like they doubled the prize money. So they took the prize money that was over the 2 days and put it onto 1 day. And so now they're asking, if you're in New South Wales, just drive to Wagga. If you're from Sydney, it's like 5 hours, to do an 80-kilometre handicap and then drive home another 5 hours. That was a bit unfortunate. So I thought that was that, and that weekend's been running for so long. So that's a big shame.
And the nature of that handicap, we've talked about it in the past, but it's where, the slower riders leave first, and it's graded progressively that scratch leaves last, and ideally, everyone catches at the end. But what tends to happen with these events is they don't get the grade, they don't get the handicapping perfect. But the benefit of the second day was always that they can kind of then adjust for, they didn't realise that suddenly Jesse Coyle's riding in Group 3, and that's why Group 3 stayed away. We've made that adjustment now, and the second day, the handicap tends to be right bang on. Whereas now that you took away that second day, the handicap on the first day was a total stitch up. I think Scratch were like 5 minutes behind the actual winners, which, that's just a joke.
Yeah.
Which would normally have been overcome with the second day racing, but didn't happen.
Yeah. So that Tolland weekend, unfortunately, is, I think that's a big downgrade, but it's not all bad. So there's another one that we have in New South Wales, the John Woodman Memorial it used to be a handicap, the Wagga to Albury, which was the opposite. So that used to be a 1-day event, right? And it was point to point. So you drive 5 hours to Wagga, race from a handicap from Wagga to Albury, about 120 kilometres away, and then be stuck in Albury when your car's back in Wagga. And there was nothing on the next day. So it was a very difficult one to recommend. Well, they've changed that this year. So firstly, they've gone, we're not doing point to point. Doesn't make sense. They're making it a circuit in Albury, win there. And it's not a handicap anymore. It's a scratch race. Handy, I don't know about that. I prefer scratch races. I think it's better racing. It's more tactical. Not that I hate handicaps. It has a certain benefit skills-wise, and it's kind of a bit of a buzz. But I think overall, I would prefer it being a scratch race. What do you think?
If it's a one-off race, I would prefer it to be a scratch race. If you do get the weekend, I do like the one of each.
Okay.
Because you are right. There is a certain buzz to a handicap, definitely.
So this weekend now, so they've scrapped that point-to-point crap. And they've made it a circuit and made it a scratch race. Win. So for A grade, it's 127 kilometres, which is also a good length. And then on the Sunday, they've made it a 2-day. So you now stay the night in Albury, and Sunday you get to race for A grade 60 minutes plus 2 laps on the Sunday.
Yeah, sick.
So you get 2 days of racing for one night's accommodation. Yeah. I think that's a change in format that's worth noting. And they said this year, thanks to rider feedback, graded circuit racing will be held on the outskirts of Albury. So they've listened to us going, we're not driving 5 hours to ride point to point and be stranded in Albury. And I think that's worth a shout out. And I'm excited for Kendinaville this year. It's that one race. I think we chatted about it last year. It's that a 100-kilometre handicap on the super rough road. It was one of the last rides I did on that TCR rim brake. I'm so jealous of Chris with his 30 mil tires. Now I get to go back on the Tavello with my 32 rear, and I'm going to be laughing. So that's also coming up. So Chris has finished his Fondo season, his Grafton, his sort of, the longer stuff, and now we're into the cold, windy state road racing, which suits me a little better.
Yeah, there's a certain bite to this kind of racing. You have that ability of just getting out of the car, it's 4 degrees, and you're straight into it. Takes me a little bit of time to get going. But no, look, as someone who's used to look forward to that state calendar, you would plan a season out about it. It's great to see that coming through, definitely. And it'd be good to see a few COVID babies getting into that kind of racing, because as good as Peaks is, it's not the heart and soul, kids. It's not the heart and soul. You haven't lived till you've chopped off in rural and regional New South Wales.
The other ones as well, they're all weekends. So it's not just one day. It's the new format they're sticking with, which is Saturday, it's a prologue time trial and a criterium, and Sunday road race. And you're getting that for all of them. So yeah, you have to drive around, but you get 2 days of racing for one night's ACOM.
Yep.
It's good. Get around it.
All right, thank you for your time this week, Jesse.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
We will see everyone next week.
See you then.